Hey, welcome everybody. This is John Palma, Dr. Speed Selling. This is the Raging Verablist number 166 for those who are keeping track and staying on top of us. You can always catch us out here on YouTube or also on Facebook, which is the Position to Win book group, and go check us out there. And away we go. So for those who are just joining us the first time, welcome, welcome. Those of you coming back, great to see you. Talk about a variety of topics that, of course, come to the top of my mind and others. If you go on the Facebook group, you can always ask for certain things. And also go to positiontowinbook.com, positiontowinbook.com. And with me, as always, is the ever lovely Sandra. And Sandra, welcome.
Hello, how are you today?
Doing well, doing well. We're under pressure, and she's really studious about this one. So what are we talking about today? Let's dive right into it. What's going on?
All right, we are talking about the very famous Chat GPT. So tell us, what is Chat GPT?
Well, Chat GPT could be called one of the most hyped things out there right now. I mean, I am amazed at how many people I've run into, and everybody's talking about it. So we're talking about it today. So just so you know, that Chat GPT, now GPT stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformer. Yeah, you can tell they were really marketing people. And it's a chat bot. And it was developed by OpenAI. And AI, of course, stands for another idiot, or artificial intelligence. You get to pick what that is. And it was launched way back in November of 22. It's built on OpenAI's GPT-3 family of large language models, which have been fine-tuned. And what it does is it helps you with going out and kind of using artificial intelligence to generate, well, what you may call language. So we'll see where it goes. But yeah, that's what it is that it is a large language model that has been tuned and worked on. It also has just some interesting characteristics, and everybody is talking about it.
All right, and it seems to have appeared out of nowhere. So is that true?
Well, it's actually not true. People have been talking about artificial intelligence and what artificial intelligence was going to do and capable of doing for a long period of time. And what I think has happened is that it has now kind of hit this mainstream crescendo, and it now has gotten press everywhere. People are talking about it. Is there a bias? Isn't there a bias? So even though it came out in November of 22, my guess is that they've been working on it a long time. But more importantly, for decades, people have been convinced that computers were going to be that next thing that would be able to think and work, and you could converse with it, and on and on. So it just kind of showed up out of nowhere. It also was like the fastest, you talk about an adoption curve, fastest to 1 million users, 10 million users, 100 million users. And now, of course, they're going out and starting to charge, so you don't have to wait in line. The first time I got on it was great, started banging away, started using it. Everything was wonderful. Everything was marvelous until I found out that, well, next time I went to go on it, gee whiz, you're blocked out. So now they're going to do priority seating, the VIP line, from my Vegas days. And it's going to cost you $20 a month, but you got to get on a list to do that. So it's, it's kind of strange. So yeah, I'm on that list, but I have not gotten priority yet.
All right, so what is your sense? Is it actually useful and real?
Well, a very good friend of mine and business partner says, look, Chat GPT is a little bit like going to Japan. And so you can go to Japan without even leaving your seat. It's like going to Japan and you go into a restaurant and they don't have menus the way they do in the West. And what they do is they have plastic food, which is a facsimile of, whatever thing you're going to put in your mouth and eat. And you order based upon these little plastic models, and they look really good. In fact, they probably look better than the real food. And he believes that Chat GPT kind of has this facsimile of looking good, but you got to be careful what's below the surface. So the question is it useful? I think it is useful. It's probably one of the most useful models that I've seen, but it gets absorbed pretty quickly. and we'll talk about some of the pitfalls of it, because of course, unlike so many other YouTube videos, I guess we could have clickbait that said, I made $2 trillion in one afternoon with 3 lines of code from Chat GPT. There's a lot of that. By the way, I don't believe any of those people. And they always seem to be, spouting off how wonderful they are. But, I can't seem to go and do a Google search and find these new minted gazillionaires out there doing it. So that's a lot of hype. So that goes without saying. But it is useful in a limited sense, and that's exactly what it is. So it's a tool. If you've read my book, which you shouldn't have read my book, Most Businesses Fail in the First 5 Minutes, I talk about something called a layer cake, and I would put this in as a tool. It is now how you use it will be techniques, but it is a tool nonetheless. That's what it is, no more, no less.
And according to the headlines, it can do just about anything. So what are the pitfalls regarding any tool that's misused?
Well, I always like to remind people that, you can buy a tool, you can access a tool, but you may not know the dangers of a tool. So I was working I was the evangelist for a startup out of MIT, and was sitting there, and he was doing really well and had lots of interesting things that he was, he could do. And he decided that for fun, because of course he had such an intellectual job, that what he was going to do is do woodworking. So he goes out and he buys himself this big ass table saw, and he's going to make furniture with it. Now, again, I've been around heavy equipment. I mean, like my father had a 40,000 pound machining center that I used to program for him. So I had a very high degree of respect of the dangers of these types of things. And sadly, Ira cut off basically parts of 3 of his fingers because he didn't understand what he was doing with this tool. So my suggestion is, do not do that with Chat GPT, because you could easily misuse it. And the cautionary tale is that you need to know what it will or will not do. When somebody says it will do everything and anything, I can tell you that we will quickly run into limitations of it. Example is that I teach people how to do discovery process as a sales methodology. So I typed in something which was, can you tell me 25 other ways to say the word discovery? Again, it's a big language model, right? This is something that you could find in this thing called a thesaurus. And no, that has nothing to do with the Jurassic period, but a thesaurus, which it takes a word, you then look at synonyms and antonyms and all those other cool things, right? So I plug that in and I step back and it prints out this kind of list. Not 100% complete. It says, do you like it? Do you want more? I said, give me more. And about the 3rd iteration, because here's what you can't do in real world, is that the word that you ask it to come up with different versions of it, that it starts wrapping around using that word itself. So another word for discovery turned out to be discovery. And then it kind of got stuck in this loop and stuck in this loop and stuck in this loop, which meant that, you better know what you're going to be doing. Now, having said that, one of the things that I would point out to anybody who wants to use any of these things for a business is that understanding how to utilize tools and how to make things work, well, I've got a solution for you that may be able to help you get a little bit further down the line, which is you can go check out my book, Most Businesses Fail in the First 5 Minutes. It just takes them 3 to 5 years to realize it, position to win, is that, see, Chat GPT isn't going to position you. You position yourself. You figure that out. You do the analysis. Now, it can give you insights, can give you information, but you better know what you're looking for and looking at. And that's why you need to go get your hands on this. Now, you can get a physical copy of the book, like I have, physical copy of the book. By the way, you can't get this one. This one's mine, of course, with annotations and everything. But what you can do is you can go to positiontowinbook.com and ask me to autograph it and put in an inscription or something like that. The other thing is that you can go to Barnes & Noble, Amazon, Books A Million. You can get physical copies, and you can get all the digital copies that you ever want. Kindle, Nook, Apple iBooks. On the other side, if you're doing remote work, which is where most people are at today or want to be at, you want to be better at it, go out and check out our book that we put together called Remote Work for a Better World. Still very applicable, available exclusively on Amazon Kindle, and away you go. But make sure that you know how to use those tools properly and what that really means. All right, Sandra. Oh, and by the way, I didn't say, which is go check out and get the Raging Verbalist mug, your very own. Coffee always just tastes so much better when it's in a Raging Verbalist mug. That's all I can say. You know, your mileage may vary.
All right. So what are 3 things that it can be used for?
So I think part of when you're learning how to use a tool like Chat GPT, I mean, you can do things like, and there are people who say it, you can ask it to write a screenplay that's like Francis Ford Coppola's Godfather, and it'll spit out 100 pages of gobbledygook. I think we start with something much tighter. We get more rudimentary stuff. Like, how about help you write an email that you're stuck on? Because a lot of times we have it in our head what we're trying to do. We get into stumbling. So I think it can help us do that because the language model seems to be able to handle those kinds of simple tasks. And then you'll get better. I will give you a bonus right now, and you can write this on a little 3x5 card. Put it somewhere else if you want, but it's all in the prompt. It's all in the prompt. The prompt that you put in there, what you ask it, is so very important. So I think emails can help you get emails done faster, especially a lot of times emails don't have to be perfect. Make sure you read them, though. Make sure you go and do something like that. And I'll give you another bonus. Since all computers today, Windows, Macs, I think even Linux, can read text back to you, is highlight something and have it read it back to you, because hearing it may help you find mistakes. It does for me. So you might check it out for that. The other thing is it can help you do rapid research. Now, it's kind of ironic because there are limitations that you'll run into, and there's a big concern that, will this eliminate Google? I would use both, but I would say that Chat GPT can make you sound like you know what you're doing. Now, that's one of the pitfalls, though, is that you don't want it to be one of those commercials that say, well, I'm really not a brain surgeon, but I, stayed at a Holiday Inn Express, and, I think I can handle it. Well, same kind of thing. In fact, a little quick funny story is that we had an event called Shred Your Reality in Las Vegas a few years back. And one of the guys called up and said, listen, John, I feel terrible, but I have to cancel. My wife's going in for an operation, and I got to stay here in New York City. And I said, well, hey, why don't you bring her out? In fact, one of the attendees is a doctor. And since we have a big screen TV, we'll put it up on, we'll pull up some YouTube videos, we'll watch it, and, we'll toss the operation in for free, and that'll be like a nighttime bonus session, which he thought I was kidding, but I'm telling you that there are probably people who are doing crazy stuff like that. By the way, if you think that I'm being serious, no, I'm not. That's my disclaimer. Don't do something silly like that. So yeah, so you can do it to write or to do rapid research. Also write some technical things. I know people who are writing Python scripts and other kinds of code, and it appears to be spitting out some things that are very useful and move things along. In fact, I know one person in particular who has been writing and using it to generate code, because a lot of times it's only the inner loop of the code that you need to have real super brain power, and the rest is kind of boring stuff. And it appears that it does a pretty good job of doing some of that boring stuff. It'll get better, but don't rely on it to be like the end all be all.
Right. And is there something you're using it for now in experimenting?
So I used it to write a press release, and press releases can usually be kind of daunting. And, you start off, and like I said, there's a lot of, boring stuff that goes into press releases. Not boring, but, essential stuff that you need to write. And so I used to write a press release, and I would say probably it cut my time down by about 60% because I kept tweaking it. But I've been using it for that. Gabe Batista, my co-conspirator, co-author, and business partner on books and other things, has used it to write a business report, and it did a really good job of fleshing things out and putting things together. Helps you make sure that you don't miss some things that are common, but you gotta use it for that. And then I have a friend who's been using it to write code. but I've been experimenting with it for several months now, and I'm on the wait list to get on the premium service, and I'm sure they're going to have a premium service just like in Vegas, and eventually, you'll be in the VIP room, and there'll be the version of Chat GPT lap dance or something in there. I don't know, or bottle service in a club or something. But yeah, so that's the kind of experimenting we've been doing.
All right, and what is your cautionary tale?
Well, my cautionary tale, the thing that I think is really important to get your head wrapped around, is you better know what you're looking at to see if it's real and legitimate and authentic and you can utilize it. Example is that I was flying to Hawaii from LA to Honolulu, and it's a long ass flight, and the pilot comes on and he wants to come up with certain games and contests, and it was kind of a nice flight that way. I had enough points, and my wife and I were upgraded to first class, and he starts giving us the information, and he says anybody who can anybody can play, but what we're looking for, as I give you this navigational information, is to tell us where the halfway point is between LA and Honolulu, and that would be represented, by the way, in hours, minutes, and seconds, because that's how you navigate by time. So, I go, that sounds like fun, right? It's distractions, right? Keep the kids distracted. Bring some toys to church. I got it. So what you do is you're sitting there, and I did that, and then you had to hand in your answer. So I handed in my answer, and everybody's doing that, and they give you about an hour to do it because, again, it's a long ass flight. And he comes on and he says, well, interestingly enough, we've had not one but two passengers who have come up with the exact perfect time. They have it down to the second of when we hit the halfway mark. I said, well, that's pretty interesting. I wonder who won. And the flight attendant walks over and hands me a little coupon and says, when you deplane, we'll give you a bottle of champagne. And it wasn't cheap champagne. Again, I don't drink, but my wife and the friends that we're meeting enjoyed it, immeasurably. And and this is before 9/11, just so everybody knows. And anyway, I go off to the restroom, and this guy walks up to our row, and he came from the plebe seats, the coach seats, and he worked his way up, and he's got a big ass laptop, one of those like 17-inch screens that you could use it as a flotation device or whatever. It's just gigantic laptop. And he walked up and he said, hey, the flight attendant tells me that that 5A did the perfect time, and I'm the other guy who did the perfect time. And what was sitting there were my notes and a sheet of paper and my pen and my HP 17B calculator, because I always carry a financial calculator. By the way, if you don't know how to use financial calculator, missing out on a lot, especially if you're in business. Anyway, he's like, wait, he didn't use a computer? No, he used a sheet of paper, a pen, and a calculator. Now, I don't use a pencil because I'm not a big erase guy. I'll mark out and redo stuff. But he was just shocked and surprised. And I came back and he said, you did it that way. I said, well, how did you do it? And he goes, well, I put it up on Excel and I kept working it out and I kept thinking about this. So the bottom line is you need to know the algorithm. You need to know what you're trying to do and how to define what the variables are and how to do the right ordering, because if you don't, you're going to get the wrong results. And Chat GPT isn't going to help you if you don't know what you're looking at. If somebody wrote a press release and hadn't written press releases like I have, hadn't been involved in doing these kinds of things over the years, they could have looked at the original and said close enough and sent it out there, and really, here's the worst part, is expose themselves to ridicule and, more importantly, be humiliated in the marketplace. It's one thing to be poorly positioned, but it's even worse to be positioned as an idiot who can't really understand what's going on. So my suggestion is that whatever you're using it for, just like if I used it to write Python code, I know that Python is a snake. I also know that Python is a computer language. Now, there's a lot of different languages out there, but I'm going to tell you that I'm not a Python expert. So I could have it write something in Python and make sure it's all exciting and everything, but I don't know that I'm getting the right results. So the most important thing you can do is know what your outcome should look like. Not exactly, but what it should look like and how it can work. And then more importantly, how will you build the testing in to make sure that you don't have the idiot factor? So it is artificial intelligence and not just another idiot.
All right. And how can sales, marketing, and business people start using Chat GPT to their advantage?
Well, I think that the best way you can do it if you're in business and you're in sales and marketing is that, especially when you look at your verbal skills. Now, here's the interesting thing about it. Chat GPT seems very oriented towards being verbose. So it's going to put a lot of words. Like, so this week I worked on a script for a business that I'm involved in, and it is an outbound voicemail script. And I got a lot of hours in it. Now, if I put it into Chat GPT, which I did, it came up with hundreds of words. Nobody's going to listen that long. And so you have to make sure that you start using it the right way. So my suggestion is that you go get an account. You join the hundreds or tens of millions, now 100 million plus of us who are there. Sandra even got one and started asking it important questions and all kinds of things. And away you go. Now, people say that people are going to lose jobs over it. I don't believe people are going to lose jobs, because if you lose a job because of Chat GPT, I'm going to tell you it probably wasn't a job that was high enough skilled anyway. But I think the way you use it is that you use it as a tool, you use it as a capability. It is a way to shorten your development, but more importantly is that I do not believe that you should take and plug something in, get it to spit it out and say, I'm done, copy and paste and send it out, because I think that would be a mistake. I recommend every person, sales, marketing, business, to start working with this and go slow. The internet has this enormous sense that we are late to the party, that you're late to the party. So let us say that there are 100 million users today, probably more than that. There's almost 8 billion people on the planet, okay? Now, you're ahead of the curve if you're using it today. You should be using it today, but learn how to use it, and you have to take time every day. I take time every day to try to learn more about it. I work with other people to get more out of it. In fact, we're looking at what we might do to build a working group around this, because I have to tell you that it's all about the prompt, and your prompting has to be better. Having said that, it is a remarkable breakthrough. We're going to see where it's going to go. I do not believe it's going to mass change some stuff. Also, it has a lot of quirks because the people who programmed it put their own bias in it, and therefore, as Rory Sutherland, and if you're not a Rory Sutherland fan, I've never met the guy. I just admire him. As Rory Sutherland says, since it won't put in nasty comments, that the only way that people are going to know that it's from you and not Chat GPT is if you put in profanity, which suits me just fine, because it won't do it. So, just think about it. So if you want to prove that you're not using Chat GPT and not being a real person, just lace it with profanity and you're all set, as Rory would say. And with that, I want to thank everybody who's joined us live. I want to thank Sandra for, of course, being here, asking the pertinent questions. And until next time, all I can say is use Chat GPT. Remember, it's a tool. It's a power tool. And don't cut off your metaphorical fingers. You could easily do.